This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our fine and growing family of broadcast affiliates. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. You know, in the last little while, we've been talking a lot about, everything from pollution to the greenhouse effect to is there really any reason for alarm? Something that I'm finding very strange is even within the scientific community, there are two distinct, separate trains of thought. Yes, it's real. No, it's not. Climate control. What is the story behind the story? Well, my guest this hour is Steve Milloy, and we're going to ask Steve, what is scare pollution about? Now, scare pollution reveals the shockingly fraudulent science behind EPA's flagship regulatory program, which has been used to destroy the coal industry, justify global warming issues and rules, and assert EPA's control over our fossil fuel-dependent economy. Steve's expose tells the story of how he uncovered the fraud via his investigative journalism, original scientific research, and revealing interactions with EPA, Congress, federal courts, and green activists. What is scare pollution's main theme? EPA's economy destroying rules depend on the false claim that particulate matter, for example, soot from smokestacks and tailpipes, is so toxic it kills 570,000 Americans per year. Wow. I had to take a double take on that one, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Steve.
EPA says that soot, they call it particulate matter, is responsible for 1 in 4 American deaths.
Well, first of all, Steve, welcome to the X-Zone. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Tell us how you got involved in this.
Oh, that's a long story. It goes back about 25 years, and I guess I can point the finger at Saddam Hussein. You know, when he used to be a securities lawyer, and when he invaded Iraq in 1990, the stock market fell apart, and so did my employment in the securities industry. And I wound up being hired by a guy who did lobbying in D.C., and he hired me because I was a lawyer. I also have a background in science and statistics. And he hired me to work on the up-and-coming issue of environmental risk assessment. And one of the first, all my first projects involved the EPA. And, I began not knowing anything about any environmental issue at all. And so, I would go around asking people, EPA makes all these assertions about, various chemicals and pollutants and radiation, doing this and that. How do they know that? And so I would be told, and I wouldn't believe it. So I would do my own research, and pretty soon, you find out that, well, they really don't know what they're talking about. They're just making it up.
Is it just the EPA that's making it up, or are there other countries around the world that are in cahoots with the EPA?
Oh, no. It's much worse than that. I call this junk science. Okay? Bad science that is used to advance an agenda.
Right.
And this comes at us from so many different directions. Not only regulatory agencies and politicians, but, the food nannies, the behavior police, from trial lawyers, from businesses trying to sell, a lousy product. There's just a lot of people assaulting us with bad science all the time. My particular, focus over the past 25 years has mostly been environmental issues, but we see this in food is a great example. What people pass off as nutrition science, for example, is just appalling.
You and I have to take our first break. When we come back, let's talk more. I've got a very funny feeling that this is going to be one of those shows that I end up scratching my head, and at the end of the night when I go home and see my wife, she says, "So, honey, how did it go today?" And this is one day I'm going to say, "You're not going to believe what I heard." Exo Nation, our guest is Steve Milloy. He's going to be talking more to us about the EPA and obviously other issues that we need to know about. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Nemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created Nemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Exonation. Our guest this hour is Steve Milloy. He is a recognized leader in the fight against junk science with more than 25 years of accomplishments and experience, I should say. Credited with popularization and the term junk science, Steve is the founder and publisher of junkscience.com, and from 2000 to 2009 wrote the popular Junk Science column for FoxNews.com. He is an expert on energy, environmental, and public issues, a public affairs consultant, author, TV, radio commentator, and public speaker. Can I ask you a question, Steve?
Yes, sir.
How come you're not in the White House?
Well, maybe I will be. You never know.
All right, you heard it first here on the X Zone. Okay, Steve. I had a scientist on earlier this week. Yesterday, who was telling me that there is unequivocal proof within the scientific community that climate change, greenhouse gas, and everything is nothing but a bunch of bunk. Then last week, I had another scientist who had more alphabets behind his name than a can of Lipton's alphabet soup. And he says, no, climate change is real.
Yeah.
Who does the public believe?
Well, that's a great question. I would say in the United States that the climate skeptics are ahead right now, mainly because of the results of recent elections, including last November's, where we now have the President of the United States is an outspoken climate skeptic. So, I mean, to the extent that, a meaningful poll has been taken, I would suggest to you that climate skeptics have pulled out ahead.
Mind you, you've got the first president within the last 6 presidents who are going into addressing a joint session of Congress with the lowest popularity rating ever.
Well, yeah, and Hillary was going to win in a landslide.
Yeah.
I would be careful about believing what the fake news media or the very fake news media says. This is true with science also. People only think that there's fake news in just political news, but there's lots of fake news, and there's a lot of fake news in science, and that's what I've been spending my time doing.
So what is the real story, Steve? Based on the investigative journalism, the journalistic approach that you take to things, when it comes to climate control, what have you found?
Well, okay, so my book deals mostly with air pollution, but I am one of the primordial climate skeptics. I've been a climate skeptic since the beginning, about 20 years now. And it always just it always was amazing to me how people presume to know the future. In science, knowledge is only what you can predict and then verify. But when it comes to climate, people make all sorts of predictions. I mean, they can tell you what's going to happen in 2100. Of course, none of us are going to be alive to see whether that's true or not. But I've got, I have to become a communist now so that I can prevent, a storm in the year 2100. It's just nuts.
All right. Now, why I asked you about climate change is I was under the assumption that pollution has a lot to do with climate change.
Well, look, the climate has always been changing, although very very slowly and gradually, and not really all that noticeable. And I don't know. I mean, yes, climate is changing as we speak, but very slowly and gradually. And I don't know that anyone can really tell me that climate has changed all that much. I mean, winter is basically still cold, summer is still warm.
Whoa! Listen, I live in Hamilton, Ontario, right in between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. Usually, we have at least 5 feet of snow still on the ground on this date, February the 28th.
Yeah.
Okay? There's not an ounce of snow anywhere.
Okay. Well, you said the key word usually, but not always.
Like it seems as we've been going on for the last 5 years, it's been getting warmer, less snow, warmer, less snow, warmer, less snow. So how do we attribute this to?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have an explanation. There is no explanation. No one has an explanation. Sure, there are people that want to say, "Oh, it's man-made greenhouse gases, therefore we must, do solar and wind. That's the solution, and that will change everything," or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know how they know all these things, and I don't know how they know that today's or let's say there's 402 parts per million carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. How they know that that's the perfect amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and that more is not better, or what? I don't know how they know all these things. They must be really smart.
It's either that or we're pretty gullible.
Yeah. It's one of the two, and I think I know which one. In the United States, this is the warmest February in the past 30 years by a lot.
Right.
But then a friend of mine, who's a meteorologist, said, "Well, February 1954 was a degree and a half Fahrenheit warmer than this month." Well, that's about 70, 80 parts per million CO2 ago, and a lot of methane. So if the greenhouse gases are causing the warming, well, why was 1954 so warm? I don't know.
There were more cows expressing their methane gas more. I don't know. But it's
so there are no answers to it. It's just hysteria.
Is it hysteria, or is there a reason why we're not being given the real answer?
Well, you're right. What the people who I think don't want us to have the real answer. I mean, there are a lot of agendas at work.
Sure.
This is after all junk science. So there is a political agenda at work. There's an economic agenda at work, and they both work to create hysteria among the public. But I think it was catching on. I mean, the hysteria in the mid 2000s, it gained traction. I mean, it resulted in an important Supreme Court decision that allowed the EPA to regulate carbon dioxide as a pollutant, which is kind of crazy when you think about. I mean, carbon dioxide is necessary for life. How can it be a pollutant? But that was kind of the peak of the hysteria, and ever since 2009, when ClimateGate occurred, and we found out what these climate scientists were really all about.
Right.
And we have also the global warming pause, which is still going on. Despite all the extra greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, you got to ask, well, why are they doing this? So you got, and for me, you got to look at the agendas. I think that's the most important thing. You got to look at the political agenda is extremely strong, and then you have the guys that want to make money off it.
Everybody wants to make money off it.
Well, I just assume it goes away.
Me too. But here's the question: how is it going to go away? How are we going to be able to get rid of the pollution if the Earth is surrounded by our little atmosphere, and nothing can expel itself into space? So what happens to the pollution?
Well, we don't know that carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases are really trapping all that much heat that the Earth can't handle, and that we won't actually like it better. We just don't know. That's all very uncertain. The northern hemisphere has been warming since at least 1650, which was the depths of the Little Ice Age. Overall, the Earth, we think the Earth, if you look at the geological record, we think the Earth has been cooling for about 2 million years. Who knows what's going on? Who knows?
I understand that you uncovered a lot EPA's illegal human experiments.
Yeah.
Now tell us about this. Experimenting against humans by the EPA?
Yeah, EPA. Well, first, it's important to go back to that number, 570,000. So EPA says that outdoor air kills one foreign American deaths are due to outdoor air. 570,000 Americans a year die because of outdoor air. And I always thought that was just total nonsense. And turns out EPA did too, because EPA only was able to make that claim based on some very controversial statistical studies, the data for which they hid. Mm-hmm. They've been hiding for 20 years. No one can verify it. But nonetheless, so in an effort to validate their statistics, they have been conducting experiments on humans. And so at the University of North Carolina, they have a gas chamber. And into this gas chamber, outside the building, they idle a diesel truck, and they pipe the exhaust into the gas chamber where they stick their human guinea pigs. And these guinea pigs can be senior citizens up to 80 years old. They can be people that have diabetes, people with heart disease, obese people, asthmatics. And EPA is trying to cause something to happen in these people. They expose them to very high levels of diesel exhaust and other pollutants. I found experiments where EPA was exposing college students to chlorine gas, like it was World War I or something like that.
It's starting to sound like the atrocities of the two world wars.
Yes. And then possibly the most outrageous of all, at the University of Southern California and University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, EPA-funded researchers were spraying diesel exhaust up the noses of 10-year-old children. So I uncovered all this, and the story is in my book. And I got Congress involved, and the EPA Inspector General, and the National Academy of Sciences, and but you'd be surprised at how much political protection EPA has been under.
I'm having a bit of a hard time. I'm having a bit of a hard time digesting all of this.
It's hard to believe. It's extremely hard to believe. You have to read about it.
Hey, listen, I'm going to get a copy of your book, and I'm going to make sure everybody I know gets a copy of your book. But how come through the mainstream media this story hasn't broke far and wide?
Well, I mean, it has bubbled up from time to time. It has, well, first off, we have the fake news media, and they don't, if you're reporting something that's embarrassing about, EPA, forget it. That's just, it's not going to happen. So it has popped up in, alternative. It was on, Drudge Report. I've been on TV about it. But EPA has been pretty successful at squashing it so far. But there's a new sheriff in town now, so I think those days are over.
Does President Trump have a copy of your book, and does he know what the EPA has been doing to the citizens of the United States?
Well, I can tell you that I was on the Trump transition team for EPA, so I do have kind of a pipeline into so people people do know, are learning, and I expect appropriate action to be taken.
I would hope so. I would truly hope so, because if the EPA is doing what we have been hearing you tell us about the experimentation with humans, someone has to be held accountable. And who was the president who allowed this to happen?
Well, this started happening under Bill Clinton, then it happened through the George Bush administration, and then into the Barack Obama administration. And EPA still wants to do it. And they can do this because the EPA is the most powerful federal agency in the U.S. government, much more so than the IRS or anything else. I mean, it is extraordinary. EPA lords over every other federal agency.
Steve, stand by. You and I have to take a break. Exonation, my guest this hour is Steve Milloy. He is the author of Scare Pollution, Why and How to Fix the EPA. He is also the founder of junkscience.com. This is truly shocking. And we're going to find out on the other side of this break how you can get a copy of this book. And we'll have to do something about it. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Steve Milloy is my guest, and we'll both be back on the other side as we continue here in the X Zone, unless the EPA finds a way to cross the borders and snuffle me between now and then. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting this sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
All right, now, X Zone Nation, You've been listening to me for 26 years. God bless each and every one of you. How you do it, I don't know. Steve and I were talking off air, as we do during the commercial breaks. And, you know, it really annoys me, because I am a dad and I am a granddad, that a government agency of the United States would actually put diesel fumes up the nose of a 10-year-old. And you know, Steve, you brought up the point, well, it's all because of particulates, right? That,
yes.
You know, I guess the jury is out as to whether it is harmful or not. No. It's not. No, it's harmful.
No, I exhaustively prove that it is not harmful in my book.
It's not.
The whole point of my human experiment story is that EPA says that these particles are the most toxic substance on the planet. Mm-hmm. If that was true, let's just assume for the sake of argument that it is true, then why in God's name, how in God's name, can they expose 10-year-old children, 80-year-old people? I mean, these are the people that EPA says are most vulnerable to particulate pollution. How can they expose them to exceedingly high concentrations in a laboratory? That's criminal.
It is.
If PF 2.5 is as dangerous as EPA says.
So
it's just flat out, it's like the Tuskegee experiments.
All right, so let's use history as our benchmark. History, to me, is the greatest evidence that you can ever find to any argument, pro or con. So what are we saying here? That it's not harmful because the EPA did this in a controlled environment, in a laboratory, that they put the fumes of a diesel truck up the nose of a child, and that it's not dangerous? Did we have any medical reports to go along with EPA findings, or are we just taking the EPA at point blank, zero proof? Away you go. You say it's not harmful. It's not harmful. What do we do here?
Well, I don't know exactly what answer you're looking for. I mean, you know,
I want the truth, damn it, and I can handle the truth.
Well, no, EPA knows. Look, the reality is that these experiments are harmless, and you have to look at why did EPA do these experiments in the first place. Remember earlier we talked about how their claims about particulate matter killing people are all based on statistics. Mm-hmm. No, statistics are not science. So they needed to find some biological or medical evidence to support their statistics. So, well, how do you do that? Well, they tried poisoning animals with particulate matter. It didn't work.
Oh, that's really humane. Yeah, I'm sure the American Humane Society would love to know that. Let's go on.
You can't. Oh, I've got some great pictures. You can't. You can't kill laboratory mice with particulate matter. You just can't. You know, I mean, even if they smoked, you can't kill them. So what they did was, well, we'll experiment with people. So and you got to stop right there, because what does that mean? We're going to experiment with people to prove our statistical claim that people die from this. So are we trying to kill people? I mean, that's the mindset. They're trying to hurt people to bolster their, for lack of a better word, crappy statistics. It's outrageous. I mean, this is a government that is completely out of control.
But is it going to be any different with the new administration than it was with the past two administrations or three administrations?
Yes, because President Trump, who has been the only Republican I have ever heard say this all the time, it was a campaign to roll in the EPA, rein in the EPA, roll back the EPA, the overreach. You know, I've been working on EPA issues for 25 years. I have seen nothing but regulatory overreach. You know, it's not 1970 anymore.
Yeah.
When the air wasn't as clean as it should be, and sometimes the rivers caught on fire. Okay, those are acknowledged problems. But that was all cleaned up in about 20 years. Since then, since about the early 1990s, this has all just been regulatory overreach and overkill. And it hit its peak during the Obama administration when Barack Obama used this particulate matter science, quote unquote science, to destroy the coal industry in the United States, to pass he used it as justification for his global warming rules. The claimed benefits for his global warming rules they don't come from reductions in greenhouse gases. They actually come from reductions in emissions of particulate matter from coal plants, because EPA says these emissions are killing people. So, I mean, this is a very, and this is EPA-created science. It's fraudulent science, and it needs to be exposed, and it has been exposed. And, the new administration, I think, is going to put an end to it once it gets, into the swing of things.
Listen, I must tell you something that I think President Trump is the right man for that job, because I look at a country as a business, and he is a businessman. Politicians are one thing, but in my opinion, we need a businessman at the helm to make our country stronger. And I'm talking about Canada because we've got a poet as a prime minister. His degree is in poetry.
Yes, I know. You must be very proud.
Oh, whoopee-doo. I call them numbnuts.
Yeah. and just before we get off the particulate matter, Rob, I've got to say that some of these human experiments are going on in Canada. They're not necessarily EPA funded, but they are going on in Canada.
Oh, come on, let's look back.
Just so you know, it's true.
Hey, listen.
It's true.
That is nothing new. That is nothing new. Let's look at the experiments that were done at the Ellen Memorial Hospital by the CIA using LSD and sleep deprivation. And what really pisses me off about that experiment, my mother, God bless her, was one of the subjects.
Oh.
And this is what I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. And you're right. I'm not proud of my prime minister. I just hope to hell that there's a vote of non-confidence, and there's a gentleman by the name of O'Leary who is running, who is a lot like Donald Trump. And I hope to God Canadians use their brains, which happens if they're not watching hockey or having a Tim Hortons coffee. If they use their brains and see that we need a business person in Canada to take us into the future, because Canada is a business. The United States of America is a business. And I hear Donald Trump wanting to bring jobs back to the United States, to charge taxes.
Shocking.
And I'm saying, my God.
Shocking.
Shocking, but very refreshing.
Yeah, refreshing, of course.
My wife and I did some research for a TV show a couple of weeks ago down in the Caribbean, and I'm amazed by the divide between those who support President Trump and those who just hate him. There's no middle ground. It's either you love him or hate him.
Yeah, it's very Civil War-like in America at this point. But it's a very sharp divide.
But what can listeners do when it comes to?
So I think that I appreciate that Trump is a businessman, and these economies need to be run like businesses, no question about that. As a matter of fact, the governments do too. We need to do things that make sense. But I think one of Donald Trump's real values is his idea that political correctness prevents you from saying things and doing the right thing.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
So people like me who question this mainstream junk science, they've been trying to shut us down for decades now, making us politically incorrect. They call all sorts of names. They call us deniers, likening us to Holocaust deniers. They've suggested that we should be tried at like a Nuremberg tribunal. Bernie Sanders wanted to jail climate skeptics.
Oh my
it's
God!
Really appalling. So Donald Trump, though, he's changing the culture. It's hard, but he is doing his best to get rid of political correctness.
And you know what?
So we can talk about these things.
And you should be able to talk about these things, because I always believed that Americans had the freedom of speech. Isn't that part of your Constitution? It seems that it seems that if anybody talks about the right to bear arms, all Americans get pissed off.
Yeah.
But there are certain parts of the truth that you try and talk, and people try to suppress you.
Yeah. No, and the fake news media, if you criticize them, then you're, against the First Amendment. I mean, it really completely twisted the culture and the meaning of free speech and just everything. But Trump is the iconoclast that's going to take them down. And I think he's an amazing phenomenon to watch. You don't even have to agree with him. I mean, what he's done to political correctness so far has just been incredible. And hopefully by the time he's done, there's nothing left of it. And we can go back to, look, we don't have to agree, but let's at least be able to listen to each other's points of view, right?
Exactly. And I think that this is something that is missing, is the ability to have a conversation and disagree to agree, but to come to a conclusion and to a solution. It can happen. And why this
has compromise or something. Right?
Exactly. Just like President Trump is doing now on the immigration situation. He's putting forward a compromise. And of course they're going to nail him to the wall, because now they're going to say he's backing up and he's chickening. No. He's a smart businessman. I love the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I love him as a president. No other way. Because I don't want to get into...
if you want to cut a deal, you can't start out on the other guy's side.
Exactly. Plus, I don't want to get into the transgender discussion at this point.
Right.
I've got enough problems.
It's been a crazy time.
It has been, and as an American, as a member of the media, as somebody who's been watching the EPA for all these years, do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? And I hope your tunnel doesn't have a train coming forwards.
Well, I tell you, as I was watching the election returns come in early on November 8th, I was just watching my professional life pass before my eyes. I thought, oh my God, Hillary's going to be president. That's going to be the end of me. It's going to be the end of the country. We're just never going to, be able to talk about anything again. But then, of course, 6 hours later, Trump was on his way to winning. So everything turned around, and my transition team experience became a lot more positive.
Yeah.
So look, now there is an opportunity. This is a moment in time to fix a lot of things. Mm-hmm. How much will get fixed? Well, I don't know. We're just going to have to see. Everyone's going to have to work hard. But you can see what the opposition is like in the United States, right? I mean, the day after the guy was inaugurated, Washington, D.C. was a zoo filled with all these left-wing protesters.
Enough is enough. And then you've got CNN, the Clinton News Network that's out there that is doing anything it can to badmouth the president. And I believe in the freedom of the press. Being a member of the media myself, I appreciate that. However, I find the media today has lost its respect not only for the public, but also for those in Washington who have won their seats and deserve respect. Yes, report on it, but you don't have to down talk all the time. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell, and you're listening to the X Zone. www.xzbn.net is our website. It's going to be another good 12 minutes, so whatever you do, don't hang up. Don't change your channel, because we know who you are, and we have ways of fixing you.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401 0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back. Steve Milloy is our special guest, and Steve is the author of Scare Pollution, Why and How to Fix the EPA. He is also the founder of junkscience.com. Steve, where can people find your book?
You can get it at Amazon.com. If you buy it at junkscience.com, I will sign it for you.
There you go.
You can't get from Amazon.com.
That is true. So what do people do? Do they write their congressman? Do they write their senator? Do they write a letter to the president? What should John Q. Public do?
Well, in the United States, they've kind of already done the right thing. They voted for Trump. Now it's time to deliver on what they voted for. In Canada, well, you guys got your own battle, right?
Oh yeah. Hey, listen. Would you like a prime minister who knows poetry? Come on, I'll send him down.
And he's a boxer too, right?
Yeah, right. I'd like to see the box he could get himself out of. You know, unfortunately, there's a parallel here in Canada as there was in the United States, where you had George Bush Sr. and then George Bush Jr. And here in Canada, we had Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who is Justin Trudeau's dad, who was prime minister.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I guess that we have to follow whatever you guys do one way or another.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope you don't have to go through an Obama. Well, hopefully Trump will be a success, and you guys will see, oh, you don't need to be politically correct. Maybe we should get someone like they have.
Well, you see, our prime minister is saying, if the United States do not want you, we will take you. And I'm saying, build the damn wall, quick.
Right. Yeah. I don't even really understand why we're separate countries to start with, but whatever.
Neither do I, since our air defense is taken care of by NORAD, which is, the United States, and I think we might have a corporal or a lieutenant there just to make it look good. And I also think that we are the safety zone between Russia and the United States, because if there's a nuclear conflict, hey, let's shoot each other down on top of Canada, and if anything goes wrong, we'll just blame Canada like they did in South Park. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, well, I'm hoping for the best here, and maybe the rest of the world will go, oh, yeah, it's not over. We don't have to just do what progressives want us to do.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That really would be nice. What's next for you, Steve? What are you going to be doing? Are you going to be going back to Washington? Are you going to be...
Well, I live in Washington, and I want to see, I was on the transition team, so we wrote this great plan for EPA, and I'd like to see that implemented somehow. It's a culmination of all the, my 25, 26 years I've been working on this stuff. I'd love to see science get repaired. EPA has done a horrendous job of destroying the way science is done. There's science in other parts of the government, we sort of touched on this earlier, that need to be repaired. Government has, it's not just EPA has destroyed science, but government has destroyed science, because government-funded science often has an agenda, and that agenda is not always very good. So, I want to fix science. I've always had sort of a tortured relationship with science. I mean, I studied it in school, but I never really wanted to be a science. And ironically, I wound up, being a sort of a science critic and science watchdog. And since I've spent my time doing this, I want to see it get fixed, fixed right.
There's a lot of people who were talking in the past about these chemtrails. Do you know anything about that?
No.
No, eh?
I mean, you mean the stuff that comes out of jet airliners and military jets?
Well, yeah. Well, that's comtrails, but these contrails, these people think they're chemtrails, where the government is spewing out. I don't know what they think it is. Some think it's population control. Other people think...
they're not smart enough to do anything like that. I mean,
you've just got to wonder, don't you? But what's the truth? What is the real... We've got about 7 minutes left. What's the real story about the coal industry?
What do you mean, what's the real story?
Is it as bad? Is it as bad as people say it is? What
do you mean as bad?
The spewing of the black smoke.
No. As a matter of fact, look, the way coal is burned in a modern coal plant, it's extremely clean. I mean, there's nobody is harmed by that. In China, if you look at their cities are filthy, their air is filthy. Well, part of that problem is their transportation and their lack of controls on their industry. But I think the largest problem in China is because it happens during the winter, is that the Chinese are basically poor. Not everybody has electricity or natural gas hookups. So how do they heat and cook? Well, they kind of heat like, I don't know, to use an example, like if you remember I Love Lucy, the building that the Ricardos lived in had a furnace.
Yes.
And they shoved coal into the furnace. Yeah. And this is a very inefficient way to burn coal. And there's no scrubber on top of the smokestack, and so the soot just goes out the top. This was, London's problem for, during the 19th and early 20th century, and this is Beijing's problem now, all Chinese cities, because all these people use these little coal briquettes to heat and to cook, and they especially do this in the winter when they need the heat, and so the air gets filthy. It's not the problem with coal plants. If they had more coal plants, if more people were hooked up to electricity from coal plants, their air would be a lot cleaner. Now that's that problem. Why, the coal industry in the United States, these people they're managed by fools. I worked in the coal industry for a number of years, tried to get them interested in this PM. I said, listen, this PM 2.5, the EPA is going to use this to destroy you. Sure enough, the Obama administration did just that. 90% of the market value of the coal industry went up in smoke, no pun intended, because of PM 2.5. But and the whole time, those guys, they just they couldn't believe it.
What's
but
next?
It happened.
Any more books coming up in the near future?
Well, I gotta, I want to see this one. I'm not writing the book just so I can say I wrote a book and sell it and make money. I wrote the book, so I have my story. I need to get people educated on this. I need to get these issues changed. The Trump administration represents a unique opportunity for me to make these changes at EPA, to improve the way science is done, to make sure this does not happen again. So that's my focus right now.
What are your final?
But I do have other ideas.
I'm sure you do. You sound like a guy who's a go-getter and who finishes what he starts, which is commendable. What are your final thoughts for the members of the X Zone Nation around the world?
Well, I just, everybody cares about the environment, or at least they say they do. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, then if you do, then you really ought to spend some time learning about it. Now, a good way to do that is to read Scare Pollution, I think, because Scare Pollution, it's my 25-year journey through crappy science that EPA, fraudulent science EPA has thrust upon the rest of the world. This PM 2.5 stuff, you're going to be punished with it in Canada if you're not already. The Europeans are being punished with it. The Chinese are being punished with it. It's used to scare people around the world. There are genuine, air pollution problems. We're seeing this now in London and Paris, and ironically, that's actually been caused by global warming hysteria. The Europeans wanted to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so they encouraged diesel engines. Of course, diesel engines spew out more nitrogen oxides, which have led to the air quality problems in Europe's big cities.
So let me ask you this: if diesel engines spew out nitrogen?
Nitrogen oxides.
Nitrogen oxide.
Well, they spew out a lot of stuff, but nitrogen oxide.
Okay,
that's one of the things.
Is nitrogen oxide dangerous to people?
Well, in a high enough concentration, I suppose it can be a throat irritant. Mm-hmm. I don't think, no. I don't think air quality really hurts anybody around the world. It's more of an aesthetic issue. Even in China, as bad as the Chinese air is, it's really just an aesthetic issue. There's no, queue at the hospital of people that have respiratory problems. It doesn't cause asthma. That's all nonsense. But it does, make the air look bad and makes things grimy, and people don't like it. It's an aesthetic problem. It's a serious aesthetic problem. But no one's health is at risk.
Why doesn't the scientific community just get on board with what people want and find alternative fuel methods?
Oh.
How about hydrogen or helium-3?
It's very expensive and it's dangerous, right? I mean, there are reasons these things don't catch on. They're expensive, they're impractical, and they can be dangerous.
But could it also be possible? Could it also be possible that the people who are in the coal industry, as well as in the fossil fuel industry, really don't want to lose the money that they're making hand over fist from people?
Well, of course they don't, and why should they? I mean, fossil fuels are. I view them as a gift from God. I mean, they're trillions of dollars underground. Look at Alberta. Right, they're sitting on $45 trillion.
Not anymore. Not anymore. They sold it to the Chinese.
Well, okay, so it's only $20 trillion now. Whatever, if the price goes back up, it's worth. They're sitting on a lot of money. Why would you just let it sit there? The beautiful thing about capitalism is we create wealth out of nothing.
There's another saying that bullshit baffles brains. We've got to say so long for now. I want to thank you so much for joining us,
Thanks,
Steve.
Rob.
Continued success. X Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about Steve, his website is junkscience.com, and he is the author of Pollution, Why and How to Fix the EPA. I disagree with him about the coal industry. I, for one, am one for alternative energy. The rich get richer and the poor get sicker. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.